I'm Daz Lawler. I'm here at UT, been here a while. And this is a great event for us, the meeting of the EPA Center known as WINSS, WINSSS, Water Integrated
Innovation
Innovation Network for Sustainable Small Systems. And
Blame me, I'm the responsible.
anyway, this was a name that tried to capture all the keywords from the RFP that was sent out a few years ago. There were a lot of phone calls among many universities, and we were delighted that UMass, Florida, ourselves, Nebraska, South Florida, Illinois, and Corolla, all of whom I think are here this morning. And of course, this is funded by the U.S. EPA, and the primary person from EPA who was supposed to be here for this meeting had to cancel at the last minute because his mother is very ill, and he had to fly to the Philippines to be with her, and so he's not here this morning. But the technical staff of EPA is represented by Mike Elovitz here. So I thought it'd be useful, because not everybody knows one another, if we just went around the room and everybody introduce themselves, say who they are and who they're with, and we'll go from there. So Jess, we'll start with you.
I'm Jess Brown. I'm with Corolla Engineers, currently out of our Orange County office, but do work around the country and done a lot of work with UT over there.
Perja Pierce at UT Austin.
I'm Marla Lemos-DeBerg. I'm with the TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality.
I'm Bruce Dvorak with the University of Nebraska.
Dave Rakow, University of Massachusetts.
John Tobias at the University of Massachusetts.
I'm Mike Elovitz. I'm with the US EPA, the research side in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Isabella Key at UT Austin.
Mitchell Bartolo, graduate student at UT Austin.
Sarah Clark with HDR in Denver.
Selena Dozier, I'm a student at UT, but I'll be starting as a postdoc very soon at UMass.
Chris Miller, Miller Associates, consultant in Nebraska.
Elise Ness, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Florida.
Trevor Boyer, University of Florida.
Chun Zhang, University of South Florida.
Soyun Kim, University of Texas.
Warren Schneider, American Water.
Lynn Katz, University of Texas, Austin.
John Harold, grad student at UT Austin.
Antoinette Riley, I'm with the Illinois Water Resources Center at the University of Illinois.
University of Texas, Austin. Nicole Zabel, I'm at UT Austin, postdoc.
Okay, thank you very much. That was
Patrick, I work for.
Oh, yeah, right.
Patrick's really in charge of us all.
Yes, that's right. Very important person.
Okay, so on the original agenda was some words from the EPA missing person. And Mike, I don't know if you want to say anything about this center.
Yeah, I wasn't really prepared to say anything. I guess the only thing I can say is these small systems are hugely important. Every time I'm on the phone, again, I'm with the research side of the EPA, but I feel like I'm on the phone with people in Washington, OW, weekly. Small systems, small systems, small systems. The big systems, of course, are important, but some of the economic drivers for these regs come down to small systems. That's what they're always worried about. So I think it's great what you guys are doing here, and particularly really excited to see the outreach part. I know that's not typically some of the stuff that we as scientists do in ESNT articles and whatnot, but it's becoming hugely important to how to get this out and how to get acceptance and how to get utilities aware of what the technology is doing and how to get the states aware of what the technology can do. So I'm really excited to see some of that. It's something that actually we're just trying to figure out on our own for the first time ever, ORD. So I'm glad you guys are doing it as well. That's pretty much the only thing I can say, but it's really exciting.
Great. Thanks very much. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming. We've been trying to get somebody from ORD to come. We've been talking to Tom Speth, who's, I guess, the head of that part of the thing, and he's had tons to do with the Flint problems going on, and so getting somebody to come here is not the highest priority. Then last week, Mike volunteered quote unquote, I guess.
No, I was excited. Really.
Great, well, we're delighted you're here. And so Dave Breckow is in charge of this center, and he's going to give us a bit of an overview of how this whole thing works.
Yeah, so I'm gonna walk through a little bit of some slides that some of you have probably seen many times before, but this is an introduction to our center, and especially for those of you who may not be as familiar with this as the executive committee is, who meets on a regular basis. Okay, thank you. So this is, as Des said, this is the group that has worked together and to create this center. And we're, really, this is a slide that I throw in sometimes for people who aren't too aware of what's going on. It's a huge challenge when it comes to costs, infrastructure. It would be on a worldwide basis, trillions, estimation 380 billion in the US alone. If any of you read the Boston Globe, I saw there was a posting yesterday about the Boston Water Utility, the MWRA, investing $100 million in zero interest loans to help the communities in Boston replace their lead pipes. There's just things like that that's occurring, and it's a huge investment. And so those are big utilities and small utilities. But it's not just about the sheer numbers. One of the issues that we are focusing on, as Mike and Des had mentioned, are small systems, of course. And the small systems are especially at risk. They are, in terms of the total numbers around the country, the very large ones are relatively small in number compared to the number of what we consider the small systems. So about 153,000 roughly public drinking water systems in the US, and most of those are going to be under 3,300 customers. And so small is big. But when you look at it from a population served, it's maybe not quite as big, but the problems occur essentially per system and not necessarily linked to the population.
Hey,
So,
Dave,
yeah.
could you move the camera over so it faces the screen? I know you're really cute, but I've seen you before.
Oh, Scott.
Scott, that's a nice compliment.
Okay, how's that?
Oh, yeah, you gotta be
That's
careful.
perfect.
Yeah, I think I must have bumped it.
Careful the left.
Yeah.
Also, Dave,
Okay.
just remember, try to speak towards the microphone a little.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, can you hear me, Scott?
I can hear you and I can see the screen.
Okay, good, we're good to go. Okay, well, Scott
Not
has
as
seen
cute
these
as
before
Dave.
anyways. Yeah, I know, really. I can stand in the way. So this is essentially the EPA vision, the sort of thing probably that if Paskey were here, he would talk a little bit about, because this is the text that was in the original request for proposals that we responded to. That they wanted a center that would conduct research, develop and demonstrate innovative, sustainable technologies, et cetera, state-of-the-art technologies, and also work with technology developers and users and try to get all of this moving out into the marketplace and into use. Also provide education. It's basically a long list of all the sorts of things you'd expect, you'd want in a center like this, and a group that's trying to serve small systems. Since I couldn't fund commercialization, we wanted to work with some regional groups, which is something I'll mention in a minute, and we're doing. And ultimately, there are 2 awards that were made, which was a great development that we didn't expect, because there originally was only $4.1 million for one center, and the De-Risk Center and WINS did such a great job with their proposal that they went back and, Mike was saying, they looked under the sofa between the cushions and found a little bit of money here and there, and they managed to come up with $8.2 million for 2 centers, which is almost never happened. So this is great. Okay. So our center then has half of that, $4.1 million. In principle, it's a 3-year contract, but we right away recognized, as EPA did too, that we probably want a 1-year no-cost extension. And so I think that paperwork is already through, and we're up to 2018 is the expiration date. We're about 40% through the period right now. And so this is our unique focus, I guess, focus on near-term technologies. We wanted to do piloting and demonstration technologies that might be ready within 5 years, accelerated acceptance of new technologies, and something Bruce will talk about, we're always keeping in mind that we're really doing this for small systems. And so this is something that we really would hope to get a lot of feedback from you all, and in particular the Science Advisory Committee, because we want to be responsive to small systems. This was supposed to be a not business as usual approach, in that as academics we have our little pet projects and technologies that we want to work on. And we tend to also work on them until they're ready to go out of the laboratory and someone else does. Not all of us, but a lot of us, and I'm guilty of this. And then a technology is dropped. No one picks it up. You reach that valley of death, I guess a couple of them, and where it never quite makes it out there. So we want to try to be responsive to the needs, and also do what we have to do, what we can possibly do to get the technologies out there. So we have this close association with one of the water clusters that's forming around the country. This is the New England Water Innovation Network, which sounds a lot like WINS, New WIN, and I'm constantly flipping the acronyms myself. So it's New WIN is the water cluster, and it's a lot like Confluence, if you're familiar with Confluence in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky states, and then there are several others too around the country. And then we also acquired a mobile pilot unit through some of those connections as well. Okay, so here is a little graphic on the bottom you're going to see over the next day and a half, and courtesy of Bruce, and I think you're the originator of this.
Well, I pulled out the proposal a bit.
Okay.
Maybe you originated
good
then.
Yeah, sure.
One of us did.
Somehow, I got in there. But it's a nice description and visual showing that continuum of technologies going from the laboratory all the way out to actual implementation. So it's continuum of technology. And we're going to try to, as we go along, characterize where these different projects are in this continuum. What we wanted to do is our objective measure or treat both microbial, chemical contaminants and their precursors, apply new information technology systems, and keep sustainability in the viewpoint. So, one of the things we need to do to be responsive is we want to make sure that we are dealing with problems that are an issue for small systems. And there are two different things going on here. And EPA and the states, and it's kind of ridiculous I'm talking about the states are doing because I'm an academic and some of you know very well what's going on, but excuse me, I may not present this exactly accurately, but they're both dealing with a lot of high frequency of violations. That's expensive, that takes a lot of manpower and time to deal with, and doesn't always lead to a productive endpoint. And there's also the issue, too, of the fact that sometimes these violations are a real problem and are connected with health issues. And so there are health-related violations, and then there are other types, like reporting violations that have nothing to do necessarily with water quality that is a risk. And so here's a listing of some of the health-related violations, the most common ones, from the CIDWIS database from last year. And these are divided up into the violations for all systems and those serving less than 10,000. And so the number of systems that are in violation with lead and copper, for example, something that's in the news a lot, you can see that 8,542 versus 8,193. So most of them are small systems. And this is true as you go down this table. Most of the violations do come from small systems. And the populations may be small, but you still have to deal with them as a system. And so this is what we want to think about as the target. And think about the technologies that we're working on and how is this going to happen. This is not the whole picture, of course, but this is just one piece. It's easy to pick up. And it's also important to recognize that the health problems and the violations related to health issues are not uniform across the country. And so you've got, this is from a recent Journal AWWA article where the violations were examined in terms of their distribution across the country. And so in this particular case, this is disinfection byproduct violations. And these are numbers of violations. If I were doing this, I might not have done it quite this way, but so the red states, Texas is a red state, of course.
The big states do badly.
Yes, right. There are more systems, and so you expect them to be more. But there are a few smaller states in this, like South Dakota. So that's a pretty small state, in terms of population. And so it's, I'll probably redo this based on a per system analysis. But nevertheless, there's a distribution that you see here that is, and it's interesting, there's not much up in our area over here, is compared with arsenic. Again, you'd expect it to be linked to the big states. And so Texas is always a red state. We know this. But there are others, like Idaho. Has anyone ever here ever been to Idaho? Oh, yeah, okay. I wasn't sure Idaho actually existed, but I think it does. Did you really? Oh my gosh, you're the first person I think I ever met.
You've never been to it?
I've never been to Idaho. So anyways, Idaho, there it is. It's got arsenic, and not a lot of people, too. Okay, so here's our team, as Des already mentioned, and so we met just about everyone on this list is here. Steve's not able to make it. Prashant Shenoy and Chulk and Caitlin weren't able to make it either, but we've got a terrific team, and this is one of the reasons, of course, why we got the grant. And also, the de-risk team is a super group as well. And so we were very quick and active, and after the proposal went out to suck them up.
What does D-RISK stand for?
Ooh, Scott's on the...
Scott,
Yeah,
what does de-risk stand for?
I have no idea.
Unrisky.
Why should the
making
director
it less
know?
risky. Oh, no, yeah, good question.
We did the same thing you guys did, tried to take all the words from the call and make them sound unique.
Yeah. You really don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds good, though. I mean, yeah. Okay.
I have another question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What, when you talk small systems, is that like defined like the EPA small systems below 3,300? Or are you talking below 10,000? What is it? What is your cutoff?
Yes. We've been very vague.
Yeah.
And we do, sometimes we talk about less than 3,000, sometimes less than 3,000.
It's a random numbers though.
Yeah, it's right.
More conceptual.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
conceptual, exactly. Yeah, we're not doing hard statistics on it.
No, I get that. There's a big difference between 10,000 and 3,000 census.
Yeah, right. And I think we'll see as we go through the technologies that some are going to be more appropriate for the larger of the big systems than the smaller of the big systems, too. And we'd like to hear that. We'd like to get your input. Okay. So,
Flex it.
vision. This is, we always have to have vision statements. I don't know if this is really truly a vision statement, but we're looking at technological solutions, reducing barriers, stimulating research, and a little bit of outreach. All are parts of what we're doing. Here's this diagram that we put together early on that shows the different pieces. And we've got the executive committee, which would be me and Des and John as the technology leaders, and Bruce is the outreach czar. And we meet on a regular basis electronically to make sure that things are moving ahead. We also have the science, this is actually a science advisory committee, I think.
Change the slide, would you?
And I don't know what the difference between a council and a committee is, but I'm sure there's something really important. But, so we have members of the science advisory committee here. We have also a center advisory board that I'll mention briefly. It's not a non-technical group. We have, in addition, well, actually, the focus of a lot of what we're doing are these research projects. And we've divided them up into either projects or groups or programs, however you want to refer to them. And there's one that is a little different, and this is the one we're going to talk about tomorrow, which are the non-technology projects. And the ones we're going to talk about today include the mature technologies, which we think are closer, further along that continuum. We've got 7 of them. And then 2 groups that are maybe a little early in the development, some physicochemical and biological. Most of those are here at UT. And we have what we're calling center services or service units that are intended to be a way of getting the center to be more than just the collaboration of individual research projects, and try to bring some types of oversight of various sorts across all of the projects, and building upon what we have, because we've got a tremendous number of people, people with tremendous expertise. And so we're looking at quality assurance, and that's Patrick, in fact, our quality assurance officer, life cycle analysis, assessment of projects, and then connection with the developers, the innovators in the industry through the cluster, through other means too, and education. And then this mobile pilot unit that I'll say something about in a minute. Oh yeah, these are what we call the service units, and the primary folks who are involved with each one of these service units, as well as some of the other the elements of governance, advisory boards, and so on. We'll talk more about that later, though, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let me just mention the Science Advisory Committee. I got this right.
You got it right.
And we have several members here. And this is an important group that has a well-defined function, I think. And we're really hoping that today and tomorrow that you can serve some of that function and give us some advice. And there will be some time at the end of the morning session tomorrow, before we close, for the committee to meet and to talk, and then report back to us. This is really critical, because we may be a little bit isolated. We may not. There's a lot that we don't know that we need to know, perhaps. Unfortunately, Paskey could not be here. Okay, let me just walk through very quickly the different technologies. You'll see each one of these later, but just so you have a concept for those of you who aren't that familiar with the other types of projects. This is Program A. These are the mature technologies. The first 3 of these were funded under a STAR program that I think started in 2011 or 2012, something like that, and had been previously funded by the EPA. And now are, because of that, are further advanced. And these include oxidation ferrate, a coagulation for multi-purpose contaminant removal, ion exchange, and then we move on to natural filtration and some other projects that you'll hear more about that are really, I guess, just getting started. Didn't start with the very beginning of the center. So these are mature technologies, or technologies that are closer to being implemented. The ones that are maybe a little bit earlier in their development are these physicochemical and biological. But since I'm going alphabetically, I've got and I don't know why it happened this way, but B happens to be the non-technology or non-treatment innovations, including state acceptance and trying to reduce barriers to state acceptance of new technologies, asset management data entry system, and then sensing and monitoring concept and system that several of us have been working on. Now, okay, the new phys chem technologies. And these are really all around DBP, organics, DBP precursors, and DBP removal. And this is mostly Lynn and the group here at Texas, electrodialysis, oxidative coupling with these superhydrophilic membranes, hollow fiber membranes, and then air stripping too. And you'll hear a little bit more about those. And then on the biological side, it's all about nitrogen and nitrification, denitrification, and the impacts that might have on disinfection byproducts. So that's a quick one. Now, to do due diligence with this, we really have to look at our projects that we proposed and see if they map to some of the health problems that have been identified. And so this is a really rough way of looking at it, perhaps, but it's also intended not necessarily to be perfectly accurate, but just to keep our eye on the ball and make sure we're thinking about this. And so what, in fact, I think I did this in a vacuum, and everyone in this room would probably map them a little differently. But these are the various projects, the A group, C group, and D group, and the types of problems, health-related violations that each one of these might address in one way or another. And so you can see we've got an awful lot of them around DBPs, but we have pretty much covered the full range, at least to some extent. So we want to keep that in mind as we go through. Also, the projects are being done in different locations, and the structure of the grant is such that we have UMass is the prime, and everyone else is a sub. And so just to see what that looks in terms of the budget, this is the total budget as of right now. We're going to actually increase it a little bit. We got 154K that is yet to be awarded for reasons I never quite understood. They didn't award the full 4.1 million, and so the total award falls a little below 4 million right here. But it will bump up, and we'll probably have to do some rebudgeting at that point.
Dave,
But yeah,
can we go back 1 minute just to the
Sure.
previous slide,
Sure,
the
yeah.
breakdown of sizes, a number of system. And I don't know if these data exist, the breakdown in small systems between surface water and groundwater.
yeah. I think that is in Sidwis. I could have pulled that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Be
that's also
interesting
gonna
to
have a big impact on, you know, how you look at the technologies.
Right. I mean, I think most of these are going to be groundwater.
Most small.
Yeah.
So, but you could pull out the surface water systems out of that
Right.
group. And it would be interesting to look at it on a per system basis too, see the frequency of violations. Yeah, right. Okay, so here's the total budget. And you can see that we've got a lot of the work is of course being done at UMass and UT, but a substantial amount in the others. And then we've got this innovative technologies pocket of money, 200,000 that's set aside for new things that might come down the pike. And of course, the universities have to get their indirect costs and so on, so that's always there. And then here's where we stand right now. I asked for an accounting just recently, and so this is as of March 1st. And where we stand in terms of percent of total. And we were talking last night, and I was telling everyone you got to start spending more money. The only ones, it's only South Florida has done a good job of keeping pace. And by the way, this is based, we're in principle 41.6% through the project as of March 1st. And that's the 4-year project. That's with the 1-year extension, no-cost extension.
And that's starting from July 1st?
Yeah, that's
Even
starting
though we
from
didn't
July
get
1st.
the money
Which we didn't get
till
the,
November.
yeah, I know,
Okay.
right, yeah. So I'm sure you'll all, and, yes. And not to single anyone out, but you notice the smallest part. Okay.
Project's going now.
Yeah, right, right, okay. So keep those invoices coming, please.
How can we spend more indirect cost than direct? I mean, that's rude.
Yeah, that is rude, that is rude.
Well, those are on the basis of percent.
Percent of total, yeah, I don't know. It's, yes, that's one of the mysteries of university budgeting.
I think the direct number's wrong. Is the total, it can't be, right?
Well, there are some things for which they don't charge indirect.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And there's there are lag periods, and then there's estimates, and
Yeah.
it's weird. So anyways, okay.